Bay Area gridlock, a parking structure, a packed grocery aisle, and a clock. You've got the whole thing dialed in. You even know which route saves you 11 minutes, and the parking structure that isn't expensive, along with the precise time you need to walk out the front door or you're eating dinner at 9 p.m. If you're a physician finishing a shift, an attorney billing hours that you'll never see again, or a founder who just closed a round, you've built something real. You've also built a life that's extraordinarily efficient at eating up your time. And at some point, you realize you're not living in the Bay Area anymore. You're administering it. And unlike your actual job, this one doesn't pay overtime. So here's the real question worth asking. Is this actual optimization? Or have you just become remarkably skilled at coping for something that never required that level of skill? Because the people I talk to who are leaving San Francisco are almost never struggling. They've got a career, they've got the income, and they have the house that photographs well. They're not leaving because it didn't work. It's because it actually did. And at some point along the way, they started asking themselves the question, what is this all really for? Now, I've made that move myself from California to Reno back in 2015. And what actually surprised me was not the tax bill or the square footage. It was realizing just how much California was billing me for without sending me an itemized list. It ate up time, headspace, and bandwidth. Now, Reno's not automatically the answer either. There are some people on camera I'm going to tell you need to stay put right where you're at. We'll get there. But first, let's talk about what the success is actually getting you. Starting with a number that most people ask me about constantly. San Francisco's the #1 origin city for relocating buyers moving out of the area into Reno by the latest data. According to Redfin's migration map, San Francisco's sending their people to Reno more than any other city in the entire country. Not Sacramento or LA, San Francisco. Now, I'll be straight with you. The broad flight out of the Bay Area has cooled some in recent years from the peak. The return to office has pulled some people back. Along with the AI boom has given plenty of people a reason to stay. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's still 2022. But for the people who are still making this move, Reno becomes the place they're moving to more than anywhere else. Roughly 39,000 Californians made that move to Reno just in 2024. That's not a leftover trend. That's one that has held, and they walk into my office every single week. I've been on both sides of this move, and you already know my story from 2015. Now I sit across the desk from Bay Area families who make this exact same decision every week. And after enough of these conversations, you start to hear the same sentence dressed up in 20 different ways. We're doing really well. Why doesn't it feel like we're doing well? Well, let's talk about housing, because this is usually the point where a Bay Area buyer goes quiet for a second. I had a physician client pull up the numbers herself mid-meeting on her own phone. She didn't say anything for probably almost 15 seconds.
It's my jaw. Drop it.
Then, that's not a typo. The median sales price in San Francisco has just hit $1.7 million according to current data, making it the most expensive metro in the entire country. In Reno, we're almost a third of that, sitting right at $715,000 as of July 2026. And in San Francisco, that $1.7 million can still land you an older home, a garage sized for a car that hasn't been manufactured since disco was popular, street parking, and a yard best measured in welcome mats. Everyone normalizes it because they're paying the same price too. It's like being in a fraternity where the hazing is just your mortgage payment. Now, cross that state line into Reno and that paycheck actually affords you a completely different existence. More house and newer construction. 2, 3, and sometimes a 4-car garage, which frankly is more storage than some Bay Area apartments. You'll end up with mountain views, Golf communities, larger lots, and maybe enough distance between you and the neighbor so that you genuinely don't know what they're having for dinner. And this is usually where I have to correct some people. Most of the people I work with aren't trying to find cheap. Plenty of them could write a check tomorrow and stay right in California. What they're really after is value, a fair trade between what they earn and what that will buy them. It stops being about affordability and it starts becoming about what is returned. Not can I swing this payment, but it starts becoming a conversation about, for this kind of effort, what should my life really look like? California marginal income tax is 13.33%, where in Nevada it's 0. This is all before the mortgage, property taxes, insurance premiums, utility surcharges, registration, gas, service fees, and I promise you, I'm not making this up, a processing fee to cover the cost of what they charged you on the first fee. For me, it was never about one dramatic cost that made me make the decision. It was the slow accumulation of a bill here, a surcharge there, none of them individually outrageous, all of them arriving with my name spelt correctly. After a while, I started noticing all that extra money is not upgrading anything. It was simply the toll for standing still. And for someone who spends their entire career telling people what a good investment is, I can promise you, that is not one. But here's the part that actually surprised me though. The money wasn't even the best part of the trade. The best part showed up at somewhere I wasn't expecting it. My calendar. Reno has traffic technically. Locals here will complain about it with a straight face, which I find genuinely charming because back in the Bay Area, this type of commute wouldn't even register. Someone will literally look at you and say, traffic was brutal today. And you ask them how long did it take? They'll say something like 19 minutes.
Oh, that is so cute.
A transplant from the Bay Area will hear that and start doing the math. That's not a commute. That's barely enough time to finish one song. But if you could claw back 1 hour a day, that's 5 hours a week or 20 hours a month. Add all that up over the year and you've officially got back 6 working weeks of your life. Except this time, no one's asking you to be productive. You've missed things. Not the big things, nobody misses the wedding. You've missed the small ones, like 5 minutes of the dinner, the last quarter of the game, and the version of the evening where no one's checking their clock. So maybe the real upgrade isn't all about that extra bedroom, it just has more to do with the Tuesday evening that you actually get to have now. You'll make it home on time for dinner, a workout that you don't have to apologize for after missing it for weeks, and actually seeing your kids before bedtime rather than just looking at them on the camera. And at some point, the real measure of a good life starts to shift quietly, away from how big the house is and more to back to the time that you actually got back. It took me a while to notice this myself. Then one evening I finished work, ran an errand, went and had dinner, and realized I still had some time left over at the end of the evening. And it hit me in a way that I hadn't planned for. Like finding cash in that jacket that I haven't wore since spring. But that extra time thing does have a name. If you work in a field that actually measures things for a living, like tech, finance, medicine, or law, you probably already have a term for this: latency. It's the difference between the desire to do something and just the ability to go do it. In the Bay Area, let's go get dinner turns into a minor planning session. You got parking, routes, whether crossing town is even worth it. Let's hike turns into logistics, which trailhead still has spots, which time to beat traffic in both directions. By the time you've resolved all that, grabbing a coffee with friends starts to resemble a permitted construction project. You didn't build a career this good to sit here and negotiate with the traffic app every Saturday morning. For me, that entire layer disappeared by being here. Now dinner happens just because somebody said dinner and not because I planned it 3 days in advance. The trailheads are just minutes away from my front door, and the weekend trip to Tahoe just becomes an afternoon decision. The drive from central Reno to Tahoe is only about 35 minutes. So it's not that there's more to do here, it's just that almost nothing stands between what you want to do and doing the thing. Okay, that's enough on theory. Let me show you what this actually looks like for a real family. One of my relocating buyers actually put it in a way better than I could. In the Bay Area, they quietly stopped doing things that they actually wanted to. It wasn't a money problem or a lack of interest, but by the time they mentally walked through the parking, the traffic, and the getting home, it just wasn't worth the trouble anymore. It's not dramatic and nobody has a breakdown over a gridlock. You just gradually start doing less and nobody registers it at a loss because it happens only one event at a time. After they got settled in here, I asked them what was different. The answer came in only 4 words. Now we just go. Dinner, a trail, or Tahoe, whatever. I've had clients from the Bay Area who spend more time trying to plan a Tuesday than some people do a wedding. Turns out, freedom really isn't about adding more choices. Sometimes it's just about clearing what's standing between you and the choices you've already made. Now, I've spent the last several minutes making this sound like the easiest choice ever. It isn't. Let me talk myself out of it for just a second. And that's because San Francisco is genuinely a world-class city. I'm not going to stand here and pretend that Reno competes with it at that level. If your version of a good life depends on world-class restaurants, real nightlife, museums, and a theater, walkable density, and that unmistakable big city current, stay right where you're at. San Francisco wins that comparison every single time. What you're actually trading is density for a room to breathe and a global stage for a regional one. Some of that career luck that happens just by being in the room will disappear here too. That's real. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. And there is a certain status to saying I live in San Francisco that saying I live in Reno just does not carry. What you get instead is whether you personally know somebody from the mob or not. For the record, I can neither confirm nor deny this. Then there's Reno itself. And that's because we sit at about 4,500 feet in elevation. The air here is thin and dry. You're going to go through more water and lotion than you ever have before. And for the first few days, climbing up those stairs might feel like a mild cardio session that you didn't ask for. We get real winter. Snow and wind strong enough that the patio left unsecured has a way of relocating itself to the neighbor's yard. And yes, some summers like this one does bring in wildfire smoke. It's not constant, nor is it every year, but it is real. Anyone also promising you 365 days of perfect weather here is either exaggerating or their camera crew only shows up in June. But we do get over 300 days a year of sun. I'm not trying to sell you the fantasy version of this place. That's why I want you to hear about the snow and the wind right here on this video rather than from your front porch in January. Depending on what part of town you're in and where you're headed, Tahoe's only about 35 to 50 minutes away. That distance quietly changes your relationship to the mountain. A ski day stops being a trip that you've started planning. A hike stops requiring the kind of coordination usually reserved for the extraction operations. And the paddleboard collecting dust in the garage might actually see water this year. And that mountain bike you bought with real intentions might finally leave your Instagram feed and touch actual dirt. One client texted me a photo last winter his kids' snow gear were drying on the back porch on a random Tuesday and not around a planned trip. He had a simple caption to it stating, "This used to take the entire weekend." Saturday morning now can just be, "We've got a couple hours, let's go." No advanced planning required, so the outdoors stop being a destination that you have to schedule and they start becoming something that's simply available. Part of your regular week and not on a special occasion. And there's another thing that Bay Area buyers don't think about until they're actually in the middle of it. You're not just buying in Nevada. A lot of times you're actually selling in California at the same time. 2 states, 2 escrows, and 2 sets of deadlines, along with 1 moving truck that's apparently charging you by the heartbeat. We've had clients' California sales start slipping away while the purchase in Reno's simply waiting on those funds. Cindy, my wife, has spent 34 years in escrow and lending. She keeps both things coordinated for us when we're working both sides of that transaction to make sure everything moves forward smoothly. That's why relocation experience matters more than you realize. Finding the house is only half the job. Getting you from one state into the other without things blowing up in the middle is the other half. So once all that gets handled, what actually changes once you're just here? Another couple I worked with made the complete transition. California house sold, the new one purchased here, and the entire routine built from scratch. A while after they moved in, I asked them what surprised you the most. I'm a realtor, so sometimes we just brace for, well, the neighborhood, the property, the square footage, or maybe the view. Instead, what they actually told me was, honestly, the quiet. It's the first time in years that my nights and evenings don't come with a traffic soundtrack. That answer stayed with me, mostly because of everything that it left out. No mention of the countertops, no mention of I wish I would have got a better rate, and no mention of the square footage and how they wish that was different. These are the things as an agent we would expect to hear back. But what actually mattered to them the most was the absence of noise. A different client told me something very similar in their own words. I haven't just stopped and looked up at the stars in years. I almost forgot they looked like that. But neither one of them were really talking about stars or noise. They really were describing the same kind of weight that just had lifted. It's the kind of background where your environment puts on you the things that you only notice in hindsight once it's gone. And here's the part that I think most people are afraid to say out loud. And that is, selling your Bay Area house and moving to Reno isn't like just going and trying out the new restaurant. Questions come up is, what if I'm wrong? What if I sell the house, move my family, buy a new house, and figure out the community's the wrong one? Or what if Reno's not what I think it'll be after all? And that's exactly why we don't start the conversations with houses. Before you ever consider writing an offer, we want you to know whether Reno is the right fit or not. And if it's not, we'll be the first to tell you honestly. I'd much rather lose a transaction than have you call me in 6 to 12 months going, I wish I would have asked better questions. And you know what? We get it. You spent your whole career being extremely decisive. And this is usually the first decision where good old paper stops being enough, because that could be where California buyers could make a very expensive mistake. And that is, they start shopping in Reno the same way they did in California. 4 bedrooms, 3-car garage, 3,000 square feet, under $1.5 million. Great, that tells me almost nothing. And that's because in the Reno Metro, I've got over 100 different communities that would check almost all those boxes and yet still have very completely different lives. So the real questions start coming down to, do you want to walk out your front door and hit a trailhead? Do you want to golf? Do you want pine trees and enough quiet to actually hear yourself think? Do you want newer construction where the kids have neighbors their own age, restaurants 10 minutes away, or enough land that borrowing a cup of sugar means starting the truck? Those are completely different Reno buyers. And that's why the right house in the wrong neighborhood could still be $1 million mistake. That's also why Zillow cannot solve relocation problems. Zillow stops at square footage, but that's just where mine begins. A great house in the wrong neighborhood is still fundamentally a wrong call. So with us, lifestyle always comes first, the house comes second, every single time. And to be clear, some of you should stay absolutely put right where you're at. So if your job genuinely requires you to be in the office 5 days a week, stay. Because commuting over the mountain pass during the winter is not a strategy. It's literally a cry for help. And if dense city living is what you really want, then you need to stay. If you're actually using what you're paying for, like the restaurants, the culture, The professional network, the walkability, and the global reach stay. And above everything else, if you love the life that you've built there, stay there also. I'm just an agent on the internet. That shouldn't be enough to talk you out of the life that you love. Because this was never about objectively proving which city's better. It's actually a much more narrower question which one is better for the particular life you're trying to build. But if the real reason you're staying is that you've spent years mastering a system that you're now emotionally attached to, and leaving feels like you're admitting defeat, that's a different situation entirely. That's not loyalty, that's a sunk cost fallacy dressed up in a nice blazer and calling itself commitment. You've already proven you can win in a hard environment, and nobody's questioning whether you can continue doing that. The real question is much more simpler. Do you still want to continue doing it? For me, this move was never a downgrade. It was actually closer to a complete redesign. And most of the people that I work with aren't looking to work less. But I do get asked the question of why is working this hard not buying me a better life? So sometimes the solution isn't actually grinding harder at the same problem. It's actually stepping back and solving a completely different problem altogether. So if you're seriously considering this move, then don't start scrolling the next 300 listings. Let's figure out whether Reno actually fits your life or not. Go to www.meetwithchris.com and let's have an honest conversation about this move. We're going to talk about what you're leaving, what you're hoping to gain, your equity, your work, your family, and what you actually want your Saturday mornings to look like. Then I'll show you 2 to 3 Reno communities that will actually fit that life. And if you don't think Reno's right fit for you, then let us know. If we don't think it's right for you, we'll tell you. Because my job's not to get you to Reno at all. My job's to make sure that if you come here, you'll be glad that you did. Because you've already proven you could succeed in San Francisco. And the real question isn't whether you can continue doing it or not. It's actually whether the life that you're getting back is still worth what you're putting in. So scan the QR code on the screen or go to www.meetwithchris.com. I'm Chris Raynor, your go-to realtor for all things Reno. We'll see you on the next one.